Hello, Space Unicorns! Welcome to the Uncanny Magazine Podcast, episode 70B. I am Michael Damian Thomas, the editor-in-chief and publisher of Uncanny Magazine, which this podcast is dedicated to, because it is part of the Uncanny Magazine experience. Oh, Space Unicorns, I'm recording it from a slightly warm room as Central Illinois is a little toasty tonight. Not as hot as it will be, but it is toasty right now. And, here we are going into the summer months, going into June, and wow, there is a lot going on. As you recall from the last episode, my life has been filled with things, and that is not about to stop. And you have been around for a bit, Space Unicorns, or if you're new here, maybe not, but June tends to be the month that I am preparing something to happen in July, which you will see a lot of. And that's right, the Uncanny Magazine Kickstarter season is starting soon. So I am in the process of beginning small fulfillments of last year's. Of course, I've been making these issues and podcasts the whole time, but, be doing a little bit more fulfillment. And there's a piece of art that I am waiting for. So after July, if you are a backer in the Uncanny Kickstarter, you can expect some packages coming to your way if you were expecting a package from Uncanny Magazine's Kickstarter. But we are planning another Kickstarter, and there's a special thing coming. And if you look at this issue and think about it, you will probably see something that shines like a diamond coming up. So in the next year 13. So very excited about that, Space Unicorns. Anyway, right now, but everything else is wondrous and wonderful. And I'm missing my wife, Kirsty, and my kids in Scotland. But yes, I love them very much. And I miss my daughter, Caitlin, of course, my late daughter, Caitlin. But otherwise, there's a lot of love around and a lot of good things are happening. So hopefully wherever you are, good things are happening for you too. I know there's a lot of scary stuff going on, Space Unicorn, still. A lot of hard stuff. But hopefully there are people around you and people you know who are there in your life. Anyway, now it is time for the news. Fabulous news, Space Unicorns. The 2025 Shirley Jackson Award nominees have been announced, and The Malay Illusion by Sarah Pinsker is a finalist for the Best Novelette Shirley Jackson Award. Congratulations to Sarah and to all of the phenomenal finalists. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Get ready for LACon 5, the 84th World Science Fiction Convention. Join fans, writers, and creators from around the galaxy for 5 days of panels, cosplay, and unforgettable fandom at the Anaheim Convention Center, August 27th to 31st, 2026. See you in the future.
And welcome back. In this episode of the Uncanny Magazine podcast, we feature the short story Immigrant Girl from the End of the World by Hannah Yang, Quorum by Ceridwen Hall, and finally, I interview Hannah Yang. So Immigrant Girl from the End of the World is just... I fell in love with it so much the first time I read this story. It's just one of those stories that just gets you by the feels. It is just filled with a lot of... this is one of those... It's about friendship and coming of age and time travel and struggling through different things and working against foreknowledge and living with things that that may happen. And it's just, Hannah wrote such a good story, and these are, the characterizations are so good. I think you're really going to love this one, Space Unicorns. And now, Immigrant Girl from the End of the World by Hannah Yang, as read by Erika Ensign.
Before the world ends, Mary's family saves up enough money to escape to 2004. 2004, a safe haven. The year lilts off the tongue, like a promise. Mary and Lise spend their last evening together in their favorite spot, sitting on the top of the hollow tower at the edge of town, where they can see all the abandoned buildings spread fallow in front of them, the imminent blinking out of civilization. They're 11 years old now. Their bodies are just beginning to change, getting stretched thin like putty. Lisa's is changing faster than Mary's, which makes sense, because Lise has always been the braver of the two of them, the first to charge headlong into something new. Lise has bird-thin legs, pimples on her chin, a training bra she showed Miri in secret at recess. Now, Lise will never be able to see Miri catch up. "I don't think I'll like living in 1958, says Lise. Her words congeal around the gum in her mouth, which she always consumes 2 sticks at a time so she can blow a bigger bubble. "At least you can go to Beatles concerts," Miri points out. "That's supposed to make me feel better? I'm not even a Beatles fan." "You probably will be after you take the memory mods." Lise pantomimes, sticking her fingers down her throat. Miri begged her parents to move to 1958 with Lise, but the temporal relocation protocols won't allow it, because moving 2 families to the same destination would increase the risk of discovery. All the refugees escaping the end of the world need to be scattered throughout the past, and Lisa's family, relatively white passing, relatively straight passing, is better suited for the 1950s than Miri's. Miri picks at the side of her thumb, a nervous habit she's had since she was a kid. Lise puts her hand over Miri's. "If you keep doing that, you'll get a hangnail. Here, let me help." Carefully, gently, Lise peels the strip of skin off the side of Miri's thumb. It stings. Blood wells up in the cut. Miri puts her thumb to her mouth and sucks it clean. Lise says, "Are you scared?" Miri isn't sure how to answer that. Scared seems like the wrong word. Fear requires uncertainty, not knowing when a monster will jump out on screen, or wondering how much a medical procedure will hurt. Traveling to the past will bring more certainty, not less. What she really feels is a sense of loss so strange and all-consuming that she doesn't know how to put it into words. But explaining that feels harder than just saying she's scared, so she says, "Yeah, a little." "Me too," says Lise. She's silent for a moment. Her chin takes on a stubborn tilt, the way it does when she's on the cusp of declaring some big harebrained idea. Miri waits. "Okay, hear me out," says Lise. "What if we don't take the memory mods tomorrow?" "We can't. They watch everyone take it." "They don't check as carefully with kids. Put the pill under your tongue, like this." Lise sticks out her tongue and shows her, tucking her wad of gum into the wet space behind her bottom teeth. "That way we can remember where we really come from, and then we can find each other." "But then, how will we know how to live in our new eras? How will we pretend right if we don't have our new memories?" "We can research it ourselves," Lise says impatiently. "The Hollows have so much stuff about what life was like back then." "Still," Miri says doubtfully, "it's against the rules." The whole point, for time travel refugees, is to assimilate, to forget where they came from and live the rest of their lives in peace. "So, if we don't take the memory mods, I can look for you, and you can look for me. We'll be in this together." "But you'll have to wait so long for me to even get there." The distance between them, from 1958 to 2004, means the rest of their lives will take place almost 50 years apart. If Miri ever sees Lise again, they'll be different ages, from different generations. "I'll wait for you," Lise says. Against her better judgment, Miri says, "Promise?" "Promise." They shake on it. Miri's bleeding thumb leaves a streak against Lise's palm. Lise blows a gum bubble, her biggest yet, and Miri is comforted by the familiar rhythm of it. The slow expansion, the sudden pop. The next day, when she's buckled into the machine with her parents, Miri slips the pill under her tongue, just the way Lise showed her. She spits it out into her palm and holds onto it, tight, as the machine whirs her away into the dark. 2004 turns out to be a strange and foreign place. Miri and her parents live in a 2-story house in a small town called Moreno in Southern California. It's a suburb full of palm trees and strip malls. Neighborhoods brimming with big houses and rich teenagers. The sky here is a bright, bewildering blue. Her eyes hurt when she looks up. The past, as it turns out, is full of more sensory overload than her own time. There are cars everywhere, and no neural odor cancellation to drown out the stink from their blasts of exhaust. The memory mod pill is still clenched in her palm when Miri arrives. She thinks about throwing it away, but it's the last thing she has left that proves that her whole life up until now was real. There's no other evidence that she's a refugee from the future, except in her own head. In the end, she hides the pill away in a drawer in her new bedroom in Moreno, which her parents have furnished with a pink-painted desk for her to use. The pill isn't something she'll ever need. It's just a memento, a souvenir. The Temporal Relocation Committee has already taken all the necessary measures to set up for their life here. Fake birth certificates, reference letters, vaccination records. Baba has a job in a small tech startup that will be huge in another decade or two, and Mama will be doing admin work at the local library. Her first Monday in 2004, Miri takes the school bus to her new middle school, which is full of blonde girls who chatter about things she doesn't understand. Maybe the memory mod pill would have allowed Miri to understand them better, but she suspects even that wouldn't have helped. Her difference from them feels more innate than that, like a trait of her own rather than a symptom of where she comes from. Even back in the future, she and Lise never quite fit in with the popular kids. The whole morning, all the blonde girls are talking about something Miri doesn't understand. It takes her until the start of the lunch break to realize they're obsessed with some new MTV music video. Miri can't imagine devoting so much attention to something that will ultimately matter so little. By the time she's born, no one will remember cable TV, let alone the programs that were played on it. Looking at the contents of her cafeteria tray makes Miri feel queasy. Today's school lunch is a foil-wrapped hamburger, a packet of soggy fries, and water in a styrofoam cup with a plastic straw. Everyone here uses and discards single-use items, day after day, without a second thought. She tries to find a place to sit, but she can't figure out the social dynamics here. Anthropologists from her own time might have been fascinated by the chance to study this, but time travel technology is too dangerous to be anything but a one-way trip. "Where are you from?" asks a girl with highlights in her hair, which make her blonde hair look even blonder. "I'm from a small town in northern Canada," Miri says. The cover story is close enough to Moreno to explain her perfect English, but far enough to explain her cultural differences. The girl gives her a skeptical look. "Right, but where are you actually from?" For a second, Miri thinks she's blown her cover. Before she remembers this question comes with the territory. Here, she looks different from most of the other kids in her class, and that means something to them. Something that people from her heritage-blurred era can only understand in theory. She can feel the words they're trying to assign to her, crowding in around her like a factory-cut mold, squeezing her into a specific shape. An ethnic label, a gender label, eventually a sexual orientation label. All more restrictive words than it will be in her own era, though of course, her era will have bigger problems to deal with. "I'm an immigrant from the future," she thinks. "I already know how the world will end. I don't belong here." The other kids seem to sense that there's something off about her, some secret she will never tell them. She doesn't care that the kids here don't want her. She doesn't want them either. None of them are Lise. None of them have any idea what's in store for the world. The next day, during lunch, she skips the cafeteria entirely and goes to the library instead. She breathes in the scent of ink on paper. She picks up books and flips through them without even digesting the words, just to marvel at how tactile the act of reading can be. She types Lisa's name into the slow, clunky search engine that's available on the school computers. She calculates Lisa's birth year. If Lisa ended up being 11 in 1958, she would have been born in 1947. She types that in too, and then, nervously, clicks enter. Nothing comes up. There are Lises, and there are Halcotts, but none of them are her Lise, the one who's out there waiting for her. She tries every iteration of Lisa's name. Elizabeth Arena Halcott. Lise Ari Halcott. She tries Lisa's mom and dad, and even Lisa's grandparents, though they probably didn't plan that far ahead when they moved back in time. Still nothing. Maybe most people who lived back then aren't on the internet now. Miri stares at the computer screen, bewildered, trying to quash the dread curling in the pit of her stomach. It'll have to be the other way around, then. She'll wait for Lise to find her. Any day now, she could show up at the classroom door, and there'd be an announcement over the loudspeaker, and then away Miri could go back to her best friend, the person she belongs with. Sure, it'll be strange to be different ages, but that's nothing they can't surmount. Lise will find her. She promised. Normal people watch the news. Baba does every night. He's cheerful. His mind has adapted to the hole in its past so quickly, it makes Mary a little sad. Mary has no interest in watching the world unfold. It's a book for which she's already skimmed the last page. She already knows what's going to happen to humanity, and it's nothing pretty. Instead, she spends her free time poring over history books about the 1950s to see what Lisa's life would have been like at age 11. When she closes her eyes, she sees poodle skirts and pastel suburbs. She doodles them in her notebooks in class. Draws Lisa's face so she won't forget it. Every iteration of her drawing is slightly wrong. In one, Lisa's eyes are too close together. In another, her mouth is tilted the wrong way. But Mary doesn't have any photos for reference, so this is the closest she can get. She posts the drawings online, on all the early internet forums for people who like to draw, hoping Lise will find them. A bright, desperate advertisement that no one else will ever understand. At the parent-teacher conference at the end of the year, her teacher mentions the doodles to Mary's parents. "She's smart, but she has an overactive imagination," the teacher writes in her report card. "She spends too much time alone in class. I worry that she's not adjusting socially." Afterwards, Mama and Baba give Mary worried looks the whole car ride home. "There was that nice girl at school you did that art project with," Mama says, her hands tight on the steering wheel. "Remember her? You said she likes to paint, too. Do you want to invite her over for a play date?" Mary slumps down in her seat. "She's boring. All the girls are. All they care about is MTV and celebrities and stuff." "Someone else, then," says Baba. "I know the move has been hard on you, but we're not going back to Canada. You have to try to fit in." Mary searches her parents' faces. They really remember nothing. They're truly happy here, in 2005, a place where the people are boring and the world is materialistic, and they don't even have AI assistants yet. It's so frustrating to see them trying to help her when they've chosen to forget all the things that are important. "Try for what? None of this matters anyway," says Mary. "Do you ever wonder what the world will be like in 100 years? If any of this will be worth it then?" She can tell she's said the wrong thing. Silence in the car now, sharp enough to cut. Mary looks up into the rearview mirror and realizes, to her horror, that Mama's crying. She feels a splinter of guilt, deep in her back of her throat. She didn't really mean it, that nothing matters. Her parents matter. Lise matters. But months have passed, and Lise hasn't made any attempt to find her. And maybe she never will. Anything could have happened in the past 5 decades. Lise could have gotten married and changed her last name. She could have gotten hurt in an accident. Mary's checked the obituaries, but there weren't any that she could find. Or maybe Lise has betrayed her. Maybe she actually took the memory mod pill, even though they both promised they wouldn't, and now the name Mary means nothing to her. Maybe the pill gave her artificial memories of a new best friend from whatever place her family thinks they emigrated from. A false Mary, braver and funnier and more carefree than the real. She thinks about her own memory mod pill, which she is now keeping safe in a small lockbox Mama and Baba gave her for her birthday. The kind where kids here keep all their precious keepsakes, postcards and ticket stubs and rare coins. Maybe she should take the pill. Maybe it's not worth waiting for Lise anymore. But she can't quite bring herself to do it. Just a little longer, she tells herself. She'll try to know the truth and also fit in, like being her own false Mary. For Mama's sake, she tries. She feeds her Tamagotchi and watches it grow. She sings along to Justin Timberlake and Rihanna and Maroon 5. She goes to the Moreno shopping mall with her classmates and tries on the trendy outfits they pick out for her, no matter how strange they look. Cropped hoodies and striped tees and studded belts. And after a year or two, it's not so hard, pretending. It's shocking how easy it comes to her. Before she knows it, she's started to dream in the language of her new home. She grows up, against her best intentions, in angry fits and spurts. There are days when everything that happened before they moved feels like a dream. It exists nowhere except in her head, and that's far from a stable place. Maybe her teachers were right, and she does just have a hyperactive imagination. Maybe she's just a girl from Canada, trying to justify her sense of futility, trying to make herself special. For her 9th grade homecoming dance, she straightens her hair with a flat iron. She puts butterfly clips in her hair, pink, and purple, and gold. Lise would like this. Lise always liked butterflies, even though most of them had gone extinct by the time she was born. Miri remembers one Halloween when they got dressed up in matching butterfly wings and climbed up to the top of the hollow tower on the side that faced the river. Up there, moon-drenched, it felt like they were the only 2 people in the world. Lise leapt off first into the water to prove to Miri that it was safe. When she climbed back up, wings waterlogged, hair slicked to her face and neck, Miri asked Lise to push her, to give her that extra boost of bravery. "Fly," whispered Lise, and Miri flew. College is a fresh start in a new state. Her first night there, she knows no one. Music throbs from the open windows. Laughter fountains up from the courtyard below. Someone shouts something, maybe a name. She's taken to wearing the memory mod pill in a locket around her neck. It's still her only proof that she's really from the future, that she didn't just dream up the whole thing. If not for the locket, she could go days at a time without even thinking about it. She works on her sketches. The freshman year art intensives are competitive to get into, but she wants to apply, even though Mama's threatened to stop sending her financial support if Miri chooses to major in art. One of her roommates opens the door without knocking, snapping her out of her sketching. "Are you coming to the party tonight?" She frowns. "What party?" "A bunch of the other freshmen are going, to mingle and mix. It'll be fun." There's almost nothing that sounds less appealing to Miri than mingling and mixing, which makes it sound like she's an ingredient in some kind of fruit punch. Still, Miri dresses up, blending in the way she learned how to in middle school. All of them matching in backless tops and strappy heels, glitter eyeshadow finger-painted across their lids. In the glimpses of their reflections she catches in the dormitory windows, she looks indistinguishable from the pack. By the time they arrive at the party, she feels almost like one of them. Somebody puts a shot glass in her hand, and she downs it, time drunk, buoyed by approving cheers. Sometimes, Miri hates how adaptable she is, wishes, more than anything, that she could preserve herself the way she was the day she and Lise made their promises, angry and loyal and remembering. But on the dance floor full of other freshmen, all of them crescendoing toward their own bright personal futures, she closes her eyes and pretends she belongs here. And for a moment, she believes it. Her senior spring, a girl with red hair and pretty eyes hands her a pamphlet. Miri doesn't want the pamphlet. She's applied to 17 post-grad jobs and only heard back from 4, even though she majored in the more practical field of product design rather than fine art. Still, she's been jumping to reach the first rung of the corporate ladder, like a toddler trying to learn gymnastics, and this has consumed so much of her energy lately that it's been hard to pay attention to anything else. "What's this for?" she says, more curtly than she normally would. "We're organizing a protest for climate action," says the girl. "Next Sunday on the Green. Will you join us?" Miri thinks of the trash heaps that fill the oceans in her world, the fields where nothing grows anymore, all the animals that will have become endpoints on their evolutionary trees, giant pandas and tufted songbirds and soft-shelled clams. Within 200 years, the fight will have failed. No one will remember this red-haired girl and her disposable pamphlets. "There's no use," Miri says. "There's nothing we can do to change where the world's going." "Even just showing up makes a difference," the girl says. "Have you seen the world lately?" says Miri. "Where are you getting your sense of optimism?" The girl flashes her a disarming smile. "Maybe from the same bargain sale where you get your sense of impending doom." That surprises Miri into a laugh. "Lots of people care about this," says the girl. "Come with us. You'll see." On Sunday, Miri finds herself at the protest, holding a freshly painted poster board sign while the girl yells into a loudspeaker. This girl, as it turns out, cares about so many things. She cares about social justice and climate justice, women's rights and trans rights, migrant rights and prison abolition. Hope blazes from her like a tiny sun in her chest. It's bewildering and infuriating in equal measures. Miri accidentally forgets her scarf at the protest, and the girl grabs it for her and delivers it to her the next week. In thanks, Miri takes her out for dinner, once and then twice, and then eventually just as a matter of course. Something in Miri's stomach curls in delight every time they meet. The girl is a person Miri would sketch in curves. The curve of her smile, her stomach, the wave of her thick brown hair. The girl eats her bubblegum one nibble at a time, instead of popping 2 sticks into her mouth at once, like she wants to keep it for as long as she can. Savor it. The girl is nothing like Lise. At the third protest they go to together, Miri kisses her. Softly at first, then desperately, like nothing else matters. They decide to move in together during an election year. A trajectory-changing one. Miri remembers this one from the history books. She already knows how this will end. She votes anyway, makes art anyway, goes on apartment tours anyway, classic brownstones on tree-lined streets, industrial lofts converted into one-bedrooms, signs petitions to fight the increasing raids that are targeting people whose migrations were far more dangerous than her own. The world is changing now in all the ways she's always known would start to happen. A world that's on fire and drowning at the same time. A world of extremes. Every year, more wildfires, more floods, more island nations sinking, more food riots, more desperate refugees and senseless deportations. Such a fragile world. After this, the growing waves of climate refugees trying to escape equatorial countries, the food shortages, the supply chain failures, all the things she knew as a child. And everything that will happen has already happened. It doesn't matter what 2 young women in New York choose to do. But maybe it's the trying that matters, even when part of her already knows how it's going to end. They spend Christmas with her partner's family upstate, waiting for their new mortgage to get approved. And at the end of their trip, when they're about to board their train back to New York, Miri's mind is so full of plans and hopes that it takes her a second to realize that an old woman standing on the train station platform is staring at her. Miri smiles politely, the way she does at strangers who are lost or confused. The woman is short, slightly stooped over. She has hooded gray eyes, wrinkle-lined. A wedding band on her left hand, which is clutching a black roller bag. The woman's mouth quirks into a wry smile, and then it clicks, and Miri stops walking. She recognizes her like a face from a dream. Her chin has that stubborn tilt she had when they stood on that hollow tower edge as children, daring each other to jump first. Her partner is already on the train with their bags. "Miri?" she says. The conductor shouts for everyone to get on. "Miri, hurry!" Miri holds Lisa's gaze. There are so many things she's wanted to ask her. "Why didn't you look for me?" Or, "Why did you ask me to make that promise?" Or just, "How have you been?" Things she's been wondering for as long as she can remember. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore, where they're from, or where their world is headed. Only that they're here, now. Miri follows her partner onto the train. The doors shut behind her, and the floor jolts and rumbles as she takes her seat. Her partner looks at her, then out the window at Lise, who is already receding into the distance. "Did you know her?" Miri shakes her head. "No, she just looked familiar, that's all." "Let's go home," says Rebecca, and Miri takes her hand.
Hannah Yang is a speculative fiction author based in New York City who writes about magic, monsters, and existential dread. Her work has been a finalist for the World Fantasy Award and the Locus Award, selected for multiple years' best anthologies, and published in Apex, Analog, Clark's World, Uncanny, and other places. And now our poem, Quorum, by Ceridwen Hall, as read by Matt Peters.
Half of us wish the angels would stay forever. Half want them to leave now. Both factions admit that angels hold mirrors to the abyss inside us. We too hover just above despair. They are winged, is all, and more beautiful. Being eternal, they tell fewer stories. We are narrative little mortals. There are hours of argument while angels drift past the auditorium windows, creating patches of bright and dim light, derailing trains of thought. Voices crackle and grow weary over the microphone, but no one calls a vote. We have no power over them, a woman says, so perhaps they have no power over us. We lead one another into the evening haze. Our angels have gathered to watch us disassemble.
Ceridwen Hall is a poet and educator. She is the author of Acoustic Shadows and 2 chapbooks, Automotive and Fields Drawn from Subtle Arrows. Her work has appeared in Tri-Quarterly, Pembroke Magazine, the Cincinnati Review, Craft, Poet Lore, and other journals. Thank you for joining us on the Uncanny Magazine podcast. Today, I'm joined by Hannah Yang, the author of this month's podcast story, Immigrant Girl from the End of the World. This is such a wonderful and poignant story with rich characterizations and fabulous moments. What was your starting point or inspiration for the story?
Thank you. So I think I've noticed that most of my stories don't start from one single idea. Instead, they tend to start at the moment when multiple ideas combine and meet and bring each other to life. So for this story, I'd say the starting point was really the combination of 2 ideas. And the first was this concept of time travel as an immigration mechanism. I grew up in an immigrant family, and that shows up in some form in a lot of my work. And so in this case, I was just curious about what it would feel like to assimilate across temporal borders instead of geographical ones. So I jotted that down as an idea in my notes app all the way back in March of 2022. But then for several years, it just sat there on my phone because I wasn't sure what to do about it. And then that was until it met the second idea, right, which ended up coming from all the headlines in the news right now. And
Yeah.
I know, kind of my own feelings about living in America in the 21st century with everything that's happening. And so I wanted to write about that, and I wanted specifically to find a way to explore it through the lens of some fantastical element, right? Which is one of my favorite things about speculative fiction, is if you can find some kind of monster or magic system or fictional technology, it helps kind of make the invisible visible. So it was really when I smashed those 2 concepts together that the first draft of the story came to life.
No, I think it is like, this is like the epitome of what speculative fiction can be, especially when people ask, that whole thing about, when you write science fiction, you're predicting the future, right? And it's like, well, no, we're really talking about right now. It's just, these are a whole bunch of wonderful tools to really poke at the now and the contemporary issues and things we're worried about and concerned about.
I really like that way of putting it. A whole bunch of tools to poke at the now.
So what was the easiest part of writing this story? And what was the most difficult thing?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing about writing this story was tapping into my own nostalgia. So a lot of the things that Miri experiences in this story, like the Tamagotchi that she plays with, or the butterfly clips that she puts in her hair, those are all details from my own childhood and my own coming of age. So a lot of those tiny textural elements in the setting were drawn from my past. And I've written a lot of stories that are set like either in the present or in the near future or in some completely made up secondary world with like all sorts of species that we don't have here. But I haven't written a lot of stories that are set in the near past. So that was really fun to tap back into again. The most difficult thing is a harder question to answer because there were a lot of difficult things with this one. I think I would say the toughest one was finding a way to give the story a sense of continuous forward momentum. Because I think in a lot of sci-fi stories, like you'll see a protagonist with a really specific goal they want to accomplish. Like, okay, now we're going to go save the world, and here's how we do it. Then Miri's in this tricky spot, right, where she knows the world is ending, and she knows when it's going to end, but she can't really do anything about it. And her only goal, to the extent that she has a goal, is to someday meet up with her childhood best friend again, but she has no way to contact her. And so in a lot of the story, it's just Mary waiting for something to happen to her. And when I read back through the first draft that I wrote, it really just felt like she was being pulled along by the current. Something that all of my critique partners pointed out as well. And so a lot of the revision process for this one was just about making Mary a more active participant in her own story, giving her a sense of agency, even when there's nothing she can do to really affect where the world is going. And I hope I achieved that at least a little bit, at least in making her a driver of her own internal growth, right? Her stepping into this feeling of choosing to live in the present, even when you're not sure if you can be hopeful about the future.
Oh no, I think one of the brilliant things about this story is that moment where she makes the decision. It's actually, it doesn't matter if she knows that it may fail, then that it is going to fail. Like, that is what she has seen. But it's still worth trying to do the little things to save the world anyway, to still fight back against all the dark stuff, because it's what you do. It's just, she accepts that is, I mean, it's just a beautiful part of the story.
Thank you. I'm really glad that part resonated for you.
Very much so. So the characters of Immigrant Girl from the End of the World are relocated to these different time periods in the past. If you had to be relocated into the past, what era would you like to live in?
Wow, that is such a fun question, and also such a tough question. Right. And I think it's tough because it can be so easy to romanticize the past while
Right.
also ignoring that, like, a lot of the things that we love about past eras are actually quite brutal in some ways, or like not accessible to everyone in other ways. And I guess that's something Mary experiences a bit of to some degree too, right? In the form of like little microaggressions.
Yes.
But in another era or for someone else, it could have been so much worse. So I think if I were to give like just a true answer, probably I'd want to live in as recent of an era as possible. So I have the most right possible, the least chance of dying from like a really minor infection. But that's a very boring answer. So I will also give an answer based on aesthetics. And my aesthetic answer would probably be like the 1920s. Just because there's like so much glamour to it. You've got the flapper dresses and the speakeasies, and you have the Harlem Renaissance. You have Anna May Wong, the first American film star. I just think like there's so many things about that era that if I could do it just for the aesthetics, I would absolutely love to experience that.
I nearly almost said Anna May Wong too. I was at the exact same thing. Yeah.
Do you have an answer?
Myself? Oh no, you turned the question around on me. Probably, yeah. As brutal as the era was globally, and it's like romanticizing the 1920s and 30s is kind of, it's even the between the wars, you still have the Great Depression, and so many terrible things are happening globally then. Right. So but at the same time, I am such a lover of like the music and aesthetics and the films. Because I'm a big classic film person, so there is a part of me. It's like, to live in that time in Hollywood, and that kind of glamour going on, and the excitement of this new art form and medium, even if it was a mess. And, yeah. So I mean, it's far from perfect in a lot of ways, but there is still that kind of like, that would be fun.
Absolutely.
Until I've lost all my money in the Great Depression.
You and me.
out on on bread lines, yeah. But so tell us about something you've read, watched, or consumed lately that you'd like to share with our listeners.
There are always so many things I could name here, but I'll limit myself to two. So one is I really admired The Dream Hotel by Leila Lamy. Have you read it?
No, I haven't yet.
It's very beautiful. It's a speculative thriller where, there are algorithms analyzing people's dreams essentially, and then kind of deciding if they're dangerous based on that, partially on that and partially, of course, on many other things. And so I just thought it was a worryingly relevant way to explore the themes of like technology versus privacy. So that's one. And then another is my friend and I just finished watching this TV show called Pluribus.
Yes.
Or heard of it? Yeah. I think it's hard to talk too much about that one without giving spoilers, but I obviously really like sci-fi that's like very grounded in the real world and feelings about the real world, and so I think that was a really fun one.
Yeah, this is the second interview. Literally 2 days ago, Evgenia Triantafilou gave the same answer for TV. So this seems to be like it's weird how sometimes like a show will happen and everyone it's like Andor, like everyone is watching it, and then there's others where it's like you can see quietly it's kind of moving through circles and everyone's kind of secretly going, you need to watch this. Yeah, this is so cool.
I like the pluribus circle. I think it deserves a big circle.
No, I really do want to watch Pluribus, but this is one of those things where like it's like I try to limit how many streaming services I have at a given time in order to like also eat food. So it's
extremely
like,
fair, yes.
Yes, so like it's not in my rotation at the moment to get to it.
Well, if it ever ends up on your rotation list,
no, worth a shot. There's 2 out of 2 authors this week have told me to go watch it. So yes, I will probably carve out some time to go do that. Well, it was such a pleasure talking with you, and I'm just so happy to be sharing this story with readers. I think that it's one of those that's going to really resonate with a lot of people, especially right now.
Thank you so much, Michael. Such an honor to be here.
Thank you again for listening to the Uncanny Magazine podcast. As always, Space Unicorns, we couldn't do it without all of you. Whether you are a Patreon patron, a Kickstarter backer, you have a subscription via Waitlist Books, you buy ebooks elsewhere, or you just spread the good word about Uncanny Magazine and its podcast to everybody you know. But of course, I couldn't do this without the greatest staff in the universe. That includes our managing editor, Monty Lin, our poetry editor, Betsy Aoki, our podcast producers, Erika Ensign and Stephen Shapansky, our podcast readers, Matt Peters and Erika Ensign, our interviewer, Carolyn M. Yoakum, our assistant editor, Tanya Chen, and all of the amazing submissions editors. So until next time, shine on, Space Unicorns. Nay!
The Uncanny Magazine podcast theme is courtesy Null Device. Want to join the Space Unicorn Ranger Corps? You can find poetry, stories, and nonfiction every month in Uncanny Magazine. Go to uncannymagazine.com or subscribe to the ebook version at waitlistbooks.com. Uncanny Magazine podcast, copyright Uncanny Magazine.